Earlier today, Cyberpunk 2077 got yet another update. This one was actually pretty sizable, but not necessarily in the changes it brought to the table, but more so in the download size. For consoles, it's about 20 to 25 gigabytes depending on your system, while for PC players, it was typically 1 to 5 gigabytes. For whatever reason, with this patch, it seems like there was an issue with GOG specifically, where some people, including myself, had to re-download a full 50 gigabytes. Not really clear what was going on here, and only seems to have affected a subset of players, but more or less, it's a relatively small patch that was larger in file size because these small individual changes require you re-downloading an entire file. The actual new content is likely closer to 1 gigabyte, but all of those extra files you're re-downloading are how it gets to 20 to 25 gigabytes on consoles. And this did bring to the table some genuine and pretty cool improvements, but unfortunately, there's also some bugs in this one. And overall, I would describe this patch as really a response to patch 1.3, which actually came out about a month ago now. We're kind of fixing some of the problems or errors that were made with patch 1.3, and some of those fixes are actually really nice. So first off, we just got a bunch of bug fixes. They actually fixed that weapon reload speed bug. This is a hilarious one where with patch 1.3, if you had certain perks, some of your weapons would reload way slower, like in full-on slow motion instead of reloading faster. The charge jump height was restored. With patch 1.3, for one reason or another, they made it so the charge jump wasn't actually any higher than double jump, kind of eliminating the whole purpose of the charge jump. Now it is reverted to that original height. So if you use the charge jump, you actually technically go a bit higher than you would when using double jump. They fixed this dupe glitch added in with patch 1.3 where you could upgrade a quest item and then actually just get a free version of that. The old one wasn't removed from your inventory. One of the particularly nice changes they added with this one is around enemy detection. Seems to have been tweaked more. There's supposedly some changes with patch 1.3 around enemy detection, but in my testing, I literally couldn't find much of anything. Supposedly, enemies would detect you faster on higher difficulties. Here's a side-by-side, don't see much. But now, retrying that with patch 1.31, it seems like things are working more appropriately now, trying a very similar test. That's a positive one. Depending on your difficulty now, to a certain degree, enemies are quicker or slower to detect you. And one of the biggest ones, they fixed the issue where roads after rain did not look wet, which is the result of ongoing work on the wet surfaces system. In 1.31, wet surfaces should look more detailed than they did even before the issue occurred, and this definitely seems to be the case. So the problem before was wet roads basically had no reflections. They just looked way worse with patch 1.3, and not only has that now been restored, but if you actually look to some of the older videos from earlier versions of this game, and there's really cool comparisons out there, I'll have links to these down below, you can see it actually got a visual upgrade, almost like things are a bit more reflective, and in some instances it does feel pretty appropriate. In general, people are definitely viewing this as a positive. The reflections on roads with wet spots or water and rain just look better overall. Although it seems like this might be somewhat broken, as with some surfaces, and you can find a few examples of this in particular when you're just walking around, it's like they're not reflective, and sometimes when you see it, it could be rather jarring where you have something that's now more reflective and then something else that's not reflecting anything at all, even though it seemingly should be. It's pretty weird, and it seems like there definitely might be some bugs with this update overall. There's a bunch of quest fixes added with this one, a few quests affected, nothing really game changing, but a few cool ones. Something that unfortunately wasn't tweaked at all was they actually changed around the descriptions for short circuit and overheat. With patch 1.3, there were pretty huge nerfs to contagion and overheat, and although they changed the descriptions, it doesn't actually seem like those nerfs were reverted, which is pretty disappointing. Quite a bit of a tease going on here. On PlayStation, they did make some GPU memory optimizations. This is for PlayStation exclusively, not Xbox or PC. I don't actually have a PlayStation to test this, but reading some of the reports online or even some of the videos you could check out, it doesn't really seem like it made a huge difference. There are minor improvements, maybe a couple of FPS here or there, but overall things are very similar to how they were with patch 1.3 in general. A couple of changes that don't seem to have made it into the patch notes, but are a thing. They seem to have fixed the Nomad Thornton car not appearing for some people. So before you would go to the spot to buy it and just be missing, now it's actually there. Didn't affect everyone, but it is another nice bug fix. It seems like those turrets that would drop down around Night City if you got 4 stars are actually firing faster now. It does definitely make them quite a bit more obnoxious. I'm not really sure if this is an intended change or not an intended change. Not really a huge issue because the vast majority of the time you're probably shooting them and destroying them pretty quickly, but that's a thing. One of the huge problems I actually faced with this patch, and you probably saw it somewhat in the background, was this Cascading Shadow issue. I had this with patch 1.3, but for whatever reason, after updating to patch 1.31, it became way more persistent. So in literally every save game I loaded loaded, you would just see this encroaching shadow effect coming from all sides, and if you looked around, it would make it scatter or reappear, and it was just really annoying. It actually made filming some of the B-roll pretty difficult, and for no reason, it just stopped at some point. I don't know what happened, then it stopped affecting the save games, but prior, literally every save game I loaded had this. I'm not sure if it's going to come back or what caused it directly. I couldn't find many fixes online. Supposedly turning on and off film grain is a thing. It looks like this was an issue even before patch 1.3, but for me personally, I only got it with patch 1.3 and then got it more so with patch 1.31, although once it fixed itself, it seems to be relatively okay in the next hour or two of playing. One of the other unfortunate byproducts of this is this update will break mods. Considering it was a relatively small one, not quite on the scale of 1.3, hopefully some of those core mods will be updated relatively quickly, and then some of the other mods out there may not need much in the way of updates or fixes. But if you're looking to do a modded playthrough, bad timing. We got the surprise patch that is definitely going to impact that. One of the other things worth noting is it definitely seems like we are a ways away from patch 1.4 or the next big content update. Just a week or two ago, CDPR did give us some updates on the future, and it really seems like things are going to be taking their time. They voiced concerns about actually getting the next gen version of Cyberpunk, that being the PS5 and Xbox Series X free upgrade, out in 2021. Not saying it's not coming out in 2021, but it's not definitely coming out in 2021 either, which definitely makes me feel like they would delay that to have it work properly on release. And if you look at this patch overall, you're probably noticing from this video, it's not a big one. There are some core and critical fixes, but it's really more of a hot fix, and it's a hot fix that took a month to get out. Now, of course, you have to consider, we don't exactly know how much time was actually spent on developing these versus on spending time testing some of the bugs and the quality assurance for this update. Maybe it was done a week or two ago, and then there was just a bunch of QA after that. But at the same time, for a month of dev time, there's definitely no huge heavy hitter changes. The vast majority of this one is just addressing new problems that were created with patch 1.3. So I have a feeling it could be a couple of months even still until we get the next large scale update for Cyberpunk. And to me, it still definitely feels like the next gen version is almost certainly coming out next year. We also don't really know when some of these new DLCs are coming out. We got 3, but we'll probably get more with the next big update, or at least that's what I'm assuming. And actually, just at the time of recording this one, the Cyber Engine Tweaks mod was updated to work with patch 1.31. So I got that updated in just a matter of hours. On the channel relatively soon, I should hopefully have a full video on Mega Mod for Cyberpunk, a full comprehensive overhaul. Shooting to have that out tomorrow, but obviously with this new update, things breaking temporarily, it might be a bit delayed. But either way, there's definitely a lot of cool stuff going on in the Cyberpunk modding scene, and I'm going to continue to highlight that. Although as far as new content from CDPR, I have a feeling the wait will still be a bit longer. With that said, as always, again, I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.